First, we'd like to open with a moment of silence in respect to Satoru Iwata, who just passed away, president of Nintendo. The news just hit us moments before we began, so a moment of respect. Thank you. Now, on to business.
Yes, on to business indeed. As you saw, well, we thought that we were going to have maybe one extra person here, but it doesn't look like that we do.
It's not a person.
Well, you know what I meant. Well, like anyone who's been doing anything with geek culture, we've been following the news that's been coming out of San Diego Comic-Con over this past weekend. A lot of good stuff that's been coming out. We've had. I think probably we were surprised a little bit that DC came out as strong. That DC Comics, I should say, came out as strong as they did, at least with their home video and their entertainment division. Because we got not only the announcement of The Laughing Joke as an animated feature coming out in 2016, we also got a new trailer for Batman vs. Superman.
And as apprehensive of that film and their whole DC cinematic universe, apprehensive as I've been of that, this trailer was a step in the right direction.
I feel as though that I think that this is at least makes me a little less apprehensive. I still am plenty skeptical, but I think that at least by seeing that trailer, I think that it's at least showing that they do seem to be going into the right direction, and I hope that does continue with more that we see. We've still got almost a full year until that comes out, so it remains to be seen.
I still have my criticisms,
of course.
We're not here to talk about that.
No. The biggest thing that we decided to come on and chat with everyone who's seeing this video tonight is plain and simple all the run-up that's going on with Star Wars Episode 7.
The Force Awakens.
Yes. We have decided to come on here because, well, let's just say that in the wake of the Comic-Con panel that occurred with The Force Awakens, which by all accounts for everyone there was nothing short of glorious, having Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford present at it, and by all accounts, Harrison Ford is being, more...
Harrison Ford.
Well, just also being more, just seeming to be glad that he's there because he has kind of this reputation of being a little curmudgeonly, and that remains to be seen. There was a post that was put up on a live journal group? WordPress, thank you. A WordPress blog that we've followed, and we've counted ourselves as supporters of the Prequel Appreciation Society.
Yes, as stated in previous videos, the Star Wars prequels do have a strong fan base. You have to know where to look for them. There's the Prequel Appreciation Society, there are places on the Force.net's forum boards, the whole thing that I'm boiling down to is I've had a premonition. And that premonition is there is a war brewing on the horizon. And what I mean is that it is a war between Star Wars fans. And I'm pointing out three specific groups. The first group, of course, are the original trilogy fanboys that take pleasure in bashing the prequels, won't shut up about the prequels, and are down on their knees going, Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams are our saviors to Star Wars, and they know what they're doing where Lucas didn't. There's that camp.
Which we have railed upon in previous videos. You can go look on the channel, you can find plenty of examples of that.
The second camp, of course, are the prequel supporters. And throughout this past year, there has been a subtle uprising of them. I've noticed more and more people speaking out in defense of the Star Wars prequels, whether they be in online articles, or in an upcoming documentary form.
Yes, the upcoming documentary.
The Prequels Strike Back.
Prequel Strike Back, done by the Ministry of Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which we've been in contact with those guys, and we are in full support of we are definitely in full support of the project. They know that we support it. If you guys are watching, hello. Good to see you guys. Good to maybe talk to you guys again.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the third camp, which are the expanded universe fans. Now, I have made clear in the past that I was always a fan of the expanded universe, and I had hoped that these new films would be in line, and then, of course, Legends came about, and everything in the expanded universe had been branded as a sort of multiverse kind of
an alternate
timeline, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so think of it kind of like as, the new continuity of the movies is Earth 1, the expanded universe is Earth 2.
Right.
If you want to, throw some comic book terminology around.
And I've grown to accept that. I simply wish that in the future, more stuff in there, as long as it doesn't contradict the new films, could come back into the main continuity, the canon, if it were.
Which I think is still plenty possible.
And the problem with this camp is that they are so in love with the expanded universe that they regard the new films as fan fiction, as glorified fan fiction, where the expanded universe is the real one. The expanded universe isn't. It's certainly not a high-profile fan fiction, as some have called it, but it's work for hire. What work for hire means is that you're making something for a big company. They have hired you to make something, but they own it. They have the right to do you're not the owner. You may have written it, you may have designed it if it's a game, blah, 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 but you are not the owner. You have done a job for the owner.
Which, as you said, that kind of applies to not just expanded universe literature, but it also is appropriate for expanded universe games. Stuff like, I guess you could consider Knights of the Old Republic, SWTOR,
The Old Republic.
Would Dark? What am I thinking?
Force Unleashed?
Not Force Unleashed. I'm thinking of the Nintendo 64 game.
Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows of the Empire. Thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. A lot of that has basically been rendered into Legend. So it's not just that, and you can also say that a lot of the Star Wars comics have that same, especially now with the new continuity being done with the Marvel comics.
And I have to say, so far I am loving Marvel's new take on Star. I say new take because Marvel was the original company doing comics back in the 70s and 80s. Then it went to Dark Horse, and now it's back at Marvel. And I'm loving their current, because as much as I love the Expanded Universe comic books, there was always something off about it. Like it was trying to make Star Wars darker, or I don't know how to explain it, but these new comics just scream the flavor of Star Wars.
It does.
They've perfected some sort of formula.
I think a lot of it might have to do with the fact that the story group at Lucasfilm has been, I guess, could you say leaning over their shoulder? I mean, maybe, I don't know, but I have to at least give credit to all the creative minds that have been involved with these comics. I agree. And I've never been much of a comic supporter. I'm buying all of these Star Wars comics as they come out because, honestly, you may have criticisms of certain volumes. I know I've heard the Princess Leia comic get some criticism, but for the most part, I just look at these comics and this feels like I'm right at home. This feels like an extension of the stories that we have come to know, and that goes especially true for the Kanan miniseries, Kanan the Last Padawan,
which is a prequel to the television series Star Wars Rebels,
which takes place
In between episodes 3 and 4.
And more specifically, right at the tail end of the Clone Wars and right at the beginning of the Jedi Purge. So I think that in and of itself, we at least appreciate that. It feels like at least the comics seem to be throwing the prequel fans at least something of a bone to basically say, hey guys, we know that we know that this stuff still exists. But having said that, there is the little point of that Comic-Con reel that came out the other night.
And the point that a lot of prequel supporters are harping on is the constant talk of practical effects, practical effects, practical effects.
Right. Now, I will say this. I don't feel as bothered by it as I think maybe some prequel supporters do. Maybe it's just because I'm trying to come into this movie with as low as expectations as possible, because I think that I need only remember back to 1999 when The Phantom Menace came out. Expectations for that movie were out of control.
Check this out. Episode 1. Boo Schnickens, Jar Jar Binks. That guy's gonna be the shit. I tell you.
We've referenced it several times on here. The end of the movie fanboys, when everyone is in the theater and it just right before the title crawl begins, they look at each other and they say, hey guys, what if this movie sucks?
And it's completely ambiguous.
Completely ambiguous. It's basically, I like to think that Kyle Newman put that in there as sort of a, hey guys, we never thought this. And that's part of the reason why Star Wars Episode 1 has, I think, the unfortunate reputation that it has. I mean, yes, you could consider it one of the most disappointing, maybe one of the most, I'm trying to think too hard, but I feel as though that the constant talk of one of the worst movies of all time, I think, is more than a little hyperbolic. If you want to know more about it, I'll give a little plug here. One of the older reviews by Movie Bob on when he was still part of The Escapist was about re-looking at Star Wars Episode 1 when the movie was re-released in 3D. I would say probably, what, about 6 months before the Disney sale?
That release was in February of 12.
So yeah, not that far from the sale, because the sale was what, end of October?
Yeah.
Okay, so about 8 months. But yeah, basically half a year before that. He basically said that it's just like, look at it on its own merits, and it's really no different than what is essentially any kind of real kind of big budget showy blockbuster that comes out. He throws out a few examples, but we'll throw up the link in the description if you want to go see that. Just have you guys take a look at that.
Yeah, but we're not here to talk about whether or not any of the movies suck.
No, trust us. We've done that plenty of times. I think that the other part of that Comic-Con reel, we have to address the elephant in the room with that thing. We have to address the appearance of one Simon Pegg.
My whole life has led to this moment. I'm in heaven.
Now, if you mind if I take a little bit of a point on this one? As an actor, I find Simon Pegg to be one of the funnier guys that I have honestly seen. I love Hot Fuzz. I think that he was terrific in really trying to help get his trilogy of movies, the Cornetto trilogy with Shaun of the Dead and World's End, basically pushed forward. And I think I still feel bad that Edgar Wright was kicked off of Ant-Man, because I would have really liked to have seen what he could have done with that. But I have to point this out. When he is basically being himself, he cannot separate his fanboy nature from what I think he should be as a professional in Hollywood to save his life. He has been one of the harshest critics of the prequel trilogy and of Phantom Menace in particular.
Much of it was completely unnecessary and was just Lucas defacing the originals just to practice for his inferior follow-ups.
You are so blind. You so do not understand. You weren't there at the beginning. You don't know how good it was, how important. This is it for you. This jumped-up firework display of a toy advert. People like you make me sick. What's wrong with you?
I'm Josh Horowitz, and I'm right about Phantom Menace. This is Simon Pegg.
Hello, I'm right about the Phantom Menace too.
Wrong about the Phantom Menace. You claim Phantom Menace is not a worthy Star Wars film. I claim it is a worthy addition to the canon. It stands up alongside the rest.
What's wrong with you?
The Phantom Menace was 18 months ago, Tim.
I know, Bilbo. Okay, it still hurts. You know, that kid wanted a Jar Jar doll.
Kids like Jar Jar.
Why?
What about the Ewoks? Hey? They were rubbish. You don't complain about them?
Yeah, but Jar Jar Binks makes the Ewoks look like fucking Shaft.
But besides all of that, it's got arguably, I think, the best lightsaber battle.
No,
of
it
all
doesn't.
of them.
But it's just some
There's
kung
a
fu.
two-side. What are you talking about?
But that's just lights to fool boys, you know. It's just, who cares about there's a long boring fight that's
Jar
a bit clever.
Jar, his voice is hypnotic and wonderful.
Wow, now you're being ironic.
No,
you've let yourself down now because I know you're joking.
Would it help if you heard a little bit of Jar Jar?
Jar Jar. Oh, Jar Jar.
Misa thinks you're wrong.
Oh, that's nothing to be proud of. Why are you doing that?
You're wrong, girl.
Oh God.
Are you reconsidering?
That's the only reason that you're actually supporting the Phantom Menace is because you can do Jar Jar and you need a reason to do it.
Simon, your midi-chlorian count is very
Oh,
low.
but don't reduce the Force to some sort of viral blood condition.
I'm Josh Horowitz, and I'm right. Thanks, Simon.
See, I was right.
And for him to completely go out there and completely blast what is essentially half the movies of the franchise and still be willing to not only take money to appear in a prequel-era Star Wars story in Star Wars The Clone Wars, but as well to take money to basically from JJ, Kathleen, and Disney to appear as whoever in Episode 7, it really just screams as basically I don't know if I want to call it hypocritical behavior, but it really comes off as really self-serving.
And it comes across on the studio's end as pandering to the original group in this war, which is the original trilogy fanboys.
Yes, and I think that is one of the reasons. Now
there is this myth going around that Disney doesn't want to acknowledge the prequel trilogy at all, because they're always doing marketing regarding the original trilogy, and they're all going on about practical effects. But the fact of the matter is, if you've read the new books or the comic books, there are so many references to the prequel trilogy. I mean,
might I point out one of the recent episodes of the Darth Vader comic?
Yes.
I think that I will let you guys see that for yourself.
I mean, we'll throw the image up right here, there. And the whole practical thing is being taken a little too literally. I mean, take this shot. I mean, I have strong doubts that that's a miniature. That certainly looks CG. Look at this shot of BB-8. It moves completely differently than the BB-8 that was seen at Celebration this past year. I think with BB-8, with simple stuff like sitting in a room and beeping at someone, that is going to be a practical effect. If he's rolling across the room from point A to point B, that's going to be practical. If he's going to be moving fast somewhere, rolling along, speeding,
like it was in the original teaser,
that's CG. Gotta be.
I can agree with that. And I think, and another point that I think that I find is frustrating with prequel fans at this moment, they seem to take this prequel, pardon me for saying that, practical marketing as basically what is essentially almost giving a middle finger to what they enjoyed. Now,
again, pandering to the original trilogy fans.
Right, but I mean, I can understand why some of those, but I feel as though that I'm not trying to say that their concerns don't matter, because you know what, there is something to be said about that. I'm also of the opinion that we're trying to make that I think that the prequel era fans are trying to make too much out of this, And I think in doing so, they're starting down a very dark path. A dark path that's going to make them no different than Red Letter Media, than Simon Pegg, and all the other people that have come before them to bash the prequel trilogy.
And that's what I mean by a war brewing. It is steadily brewing, and like a volcano. Once this new movie hits, I'm worried that volcano is going to explode.
Basically,
I don't want it to explode. I want us to be a unity of Star Wars fans, not these 3 different camps shouting at each other, trying to prove which side is right.
And I feel as though that the great irony in this whole thing is that prequel trilogy fans have never been the types to basically say that the prequel trilogy is better than the original trilogy.
Some have.
Some have, but the vast majority of them who do respect the prequels are full and well aware of the problems with those 3 movies. I will admit here, as we sit here, I have had thoughts in my head where I have gone to sort of a dark place in my mind where I almost want The Force Awakens to be nothing more than a mess. Mainly to finally prove to these original trilogy fanboys, once and for all, that, hey guys, George wasn't the problem. And I think that's one of the things that I've always railed against. Yes, there were some decisions that George Lucas made during the prequels that may have hurt the quality of those movies. One of the things that was brought up was that maybe he tried a little too much to pander to original trilogy fans who were angry at the Phantom Menace with some of the things in Episode 2. I've heard that floated once or twice, which, it's kind of hard to disagree with that thought. But
Abrams and Kennedy are pretty much doing the exact same thing in their marketing. Pandering to original trilogy fanboys.
Well, again, what I mean when I say something like that is that I feel as though there's an emphasis right now of them trying to regain the confidence of those fans. And I would like to believe that it's not happening at the expense of the prequel era, and I honestly, and to be completely fair, I don't think it's going to be at the expense of the prequel era, because simply put, we're talking about movies that in that timeline that are going to take place 50 years after the end of the Clone Wars and after the execution of Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really something that I think that they are trying, they're trying to go for an aesthetic. I think that because we've compartmentalized the whole idea that practical effects equals attacks on, practical effects in the marketing equals attacks on George Lucas and the prequels, I think that we're being blinded by that to basically say, hey, wait a minute. Is this really such a bad thing in the grand scheme of things when it comes to movie making? Because heaven knows there's a lot of movies that are so heavily reliant on CGI, they may as well be cartoons. Now, granted, I'm not going to start that debate going on right now because honestly, that's a generational debate.
If I may, going back to the practical effects in this film, I mean, we also have to consider Andy Serkis and Lupita Nyong'o's characters who are going to be motion capture performances.
I mean, Andy Serkis just right out of the gates, when his name was announced as a cast member for The Force Awakens,
we knew it was going to be a motion capture character because he's made that his career.
Yeah, he's had that career since, what, the late 90s when Lord of the Rings was filming?
No, he's had the career since he broke out with Lord of the Rings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But what I mean wasn't that filming in the late 90s?
Filming, yes, but no one knew who he was,
True.
and no one knew what Gollum would look like.
Very
and
true.
once he hit the screen, his career exploded into a motion capture actor. And motion capture isn't practical. It's a mix of performance and CG. And on another point is the attacks on the prequel trilogy of people saying, "Oh, that was all CG. Nothing was real."
No, that's not true at
Let
all.
me throw up some examples here. As you can see, practical sets, locations, miniatures. The stuff that was CG were foreground stuff, such as Jar Jar Binks, a digital creation, and backgrounds, through windows and such, or certain space flight scenes.
Stuff like the Jedi Temple, stuff like the Senate, stuff like the backgrounds at Padme's funeral in Episode 3.
I mean, it's just a sort of, I'd like to call it ostrich mentality in the terms of the original trilogy fanboys, because they don't want to know that there was practical stuff in those movies. They don't want to hear about it.
Because it hurts their arguments.
Yes. And they'll still harp on, bad writing, bad directing, bad acting, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point.
No, and you know what? Again, that goes back to my point. Look, we're not going to sit here and say that Hayden Christensen deserved a freaking best actor Oscar for his performances in Episode 2 and Episode 3. He clearly didn't.
I mean, clearly he's shown in other films he is a capable actor.
Broken Glass, for instance.
Life is a House. And I believe he's got a new movie coming out with Nicolas Cage, and Nicolas Cage praised his performance in the prequels.
I think that...
Maybe that says something about Nicolas Cage, I don't know.
Maybe, but I think that the whole point, again, that I always keep coming back to when it comes to what people talked about with the prequel trilogy is that I always go back again to that ending scene from Fanboys. The expectations were just out of control, and there was no way that any kind of movie, whatever the movie was going to be, would probably have met any expectations. And I think that that's honestly just one of those moments that...
that perhaps creates a fourth camp in the war, which are the people that are likely to just hate the film for whatever reason. Oh, they copied the original trilogy too much, it's too derivative, blah, blah, blah. Disney has killed Star Wars.
Which, honestly, I've seen those, unfortunately, on the Prequel Appreciation Society WordPress page. Which, again, I have...
Now, that's not to say we hate the Prequel Appreciation Society.
Absolutely not.
We love the Prequel Appreciation Society. We're just worried for it at the moment.
We
We're
are
concerned for it.
Again, it is out of worry and concern. This is not out of malice. If I had to say one thing to anyone there, it's just like, look at what you're posting. Look at what you're writing. Do a little bit of self-examination. It's one person's opinion, I know, but it is an opinion that I think you should take to heart. There are people that I have seen commenting on that WordPress page that feel like that they are going down that same place that we have criticized people like Stoklasa, like Simon Pegg for in years past. And I fear that when this
David Lindelof,
yes, and I fear that we keep going down this path. We're not going to make ourselves. We're not going to make ourselves in any better than those guys that have come than those that have come before us. We will unfortunately have succumbed to the dark side. We will have gone down the path. We will have allowed the darkness to consume us and let it dominate our destiny as Star Wars fans, to co-opt a phrase.
The bottom line of all this is that I'm dreading this war that is brewing, that I can sense it.
We can sense it, but at the same time, there's still enough time before the release of the movie that if there are enough reasonable-minded Star Wars fans, and I know that that's honestly asking a lot here, but I know that they're out there. We have corresponded with them. We know them. I'll give the two perfect examples: Rebel Force Radio and the Force Cast. The people in those who are responsible for those two podcasts and the networks that they have spawned, these people, they don't look at it as original trilogy and prequel trilogy. They look at it as a saga. And that's how we need to look at this thing, as a saga, a complete story.
If we could throw a series of clips up for you.
But what does Rob have to say?
Rob has to say, GL has added Vader yelling no to the killing of the Emperor at the end of Jedi. I have to agree with the negative comments of this edition. It's horrible and it destroys the scene. This edition, like others like it, have pushed me fully to the dark side. Uh-oh. I must now enlight my red lightsaber and hate on GL. I will no longer be another blind Star Wars sheep. I have tried to hold on.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I cry foul here.
What?
I cry foul. He says this has pushed me fully to the dark side now. Like, this is a change. But he goes right into, I'm not going to be another sheep. See, I think this guy's a seminar GL hater. I think he's. I don't think that this is just what's woke him up, because right away he gets into all the rhetoric. Sheep, George ripping off the fans. He gets right into it.
But his next comment is the one that bugs me. When he says, I've tried to hold on for 33 years. No longer. Now, see, in my opinion, fandom is something that should come naturally for you, and it should come out of passion. It shouldn't be something that you are ever trying to hold on to. It should never be a chore or a monkey on your back. It should be something that's fun and that you enjoy doing. And if you're not having fun with Star Wars, maybe you were really never a fan to begin with. If you've been trying to hold on for 33 years, do or do not, there is no try. No longer, you say, no longer it is. But as Rob continues, he says, seriously, Star Wars is much better without George Lucas. He set the stage, yes. Lightning struck with A New Hope, yes. But it ends there. It's time to face facts. Empire's the #1 episode because of Kirsch, not GL. The cuts from both Force Unleashed games or the amazing trailers for the new Old Republic game are better than any of the prequel trilogy or the lame Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon.
See, that right there. See, right there. I got Rob's number. I know who Rob is.
It's sad that BioWare can show me better Star Wars in a few minutes than GL can in countless hours.
Rob threw everything in. He threw everything in except something about Karen Travis. Quite honestly, right. You know what I'm saying. Rob, I'm sure you're a great guy out there. You listen to the Forcecast, and we love you for it. But I mean, I think that it's a little disingenuous here to say, "Oh, this was it. This was it." Lame Clone Wars cartoon. Video games are better than the movies, better than the cartoon. Yeah, all we need now is, Karen Travis should be writing the next live action series or something like that.
And Jason, that most oftentimes the negative voices are the ones that could be loudest heard because of an agenda.
I was just going to say, we got Kevin from Seattle here. When I heard Jimmy and Jason say they were all right with the nose being added to Darth Vader's moment of redemption in Return of the Jedi, I knew they were completely beyond hope. Get serious, guys. We can all hear the denial in your voices. This is crap and you know it. Showing support for these revisions only begets more revisions. You guys have become part of the problem. Show a little backbone and start calling the crap what it is. Capital C, crap. Keep drinking the GL Kool-Aid, and before you know it, we'll be seeing Michigan J. Frog singing and dancing in the cantina. I might pay to see that. Oh, Kevin. Kevin needs to join his friend, Rob.
See, this is just very typical of the stuff you see online.
Well, he's projecting it on me. He's projecting his hatred on me. Like, come on, I think it's crap. You have to think it's crap. Come on, join me.
And then there are people who feel the need to control us, too, How could you not see it my way?
Yeah.
the more I think about it, the more I hear stuff like this, the more I become open to these changes. I mean, come on, dude. You want to insult us and say, show a little backbone? Come on. I don't even have to respond to that. That's a jerky thing to say. And the GL Kool-Aid and all this.
It's the talking points. It's the same talking points from these people. And we hear it all the time, whether it's EU or whether it's the video games or whatever it is. You know, all that other stuff is that Star Wars, and George needs to just go away. It's the same old crap.
And when it comes down to fan versus fan, I think that's more damaging than any sort of audio alterations being made to Return of the Jedi. That's the problem, Kevin from Seattle. That's the problem. So next time, write us and tell us why you think it's crap instead of just saying it's crap and insulting us. Your friendly Forcecast show host. Got to cleanse the palate a little bit with an email from longtime listener Blackout, who's just chiming in. For me, it's no big deal at all. It's not a change I would have made myself, but since it doesn't alter Vader's motivation, actions, or character arc, I really don't know why people are crying about it. The worst offender I've seen over this has got to be Simon Pegg. Simon freaking Pegg! I honestly can't remember the last time I saw someone act so unprofessionally considering he works in the same industry. But never mind. He's off my Twitter list now, and he can whine away to his heart's content. And to paraphrase Jason, he should definitely be reconsidering his membership in the club.
So Simon Pegg is really going crazy with this?
Oh, he tweeted some stuff that it was just, you know what? I'll look it up.
Oh, here we go. Always loved. Here's what he wrote. Simon Pegg. Always loved Vader's wordless self-sacrifice. Another, you'll have to bleep this, another clueless revision like Greedo and young Anakin's Ghost. What a shame.
He also says, wasn't going to buy them anyway. Not even going to watch the borrowed copies now. The only thing I'd buy is the original 3 on blue. Hey, as long as we're talking about Twitter and fan reaction, Katie Lucas on August 31st tweeted, if you're going to tweet hateful words about my father, you will be reported for abuse and blocked. So that kind of sucks. You know, they're like coming after her now.
Oh, for God's sake.
But, you know, it's probably something she's had to deal with all of her life. But I like that she just doesn't, you know, roll over and not say anything about it. You know, she's a person too. So, you know, respect.
I mean, there are those in the fan community that do they are armchair critics. I mean, there's almost, I mean, folks, I've listened to other podcasts and it's almost like a self-hatred thing going on where all they do is complain and talk about all the crap that they don't like. And then they turn around and call themselves fans. It's almost sick.
Or that guy who's got those videos out there where he's just desecrating the prequels.
Spend hours. How many hours did that guy spend doing that?
My God.
To tear something down?
You know, and you know, I know a lot of fans send us emails saying they think it's funny and you know, then they refer to ourselves as sycophants and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what? I don't have time for that. I want to take something positive out of my fandom, or else I'm not going to spend time doing it and calling myself a fan. And if you're going to act that way, then you shouldn't either. So please stop sending us emails about this guy who's made these. You know what? I don't want to hear about it anymore. I just don't want to hear about it anymore. I want to take something positive out of my fandom. And I suggest you do the same, because I'm not going to support people versus this or...
Yeah, I know exactly.
I can't even... See, I don't even want to give them the time of day by even referencing them. So that's how I feel about it. I'm in it for a positive experience. I'm in it for what my personal opinion tells me that I like and what I know I like. And I don't need somebody else tearing it down for the sake of entertainment. Because to me, that's not entertaining. And you've got to question your fandom if you find it entertaining.
The bottom line is, I have this sense of this war that's brewing, and I don't want this war between fans shouting at each other. I want us to come together as Star Wars fans.
Now, for too long, I think Star Wars fans have been at each other for all the wrong reasons.
And it's going to explode, I feel. Now, as some of you may know, on another channel, I have a Dragon Ball retrospective series. It's 4 episodes in with many more on the way, and I've been planning out a sister series to go with it on another anime. If enough people desire, shout out, I could begin working on my own Star Wars retrospective, giving my passionate feelings on the entire saga. Try to explain things better to all sides and make clearer, I think, what Star Wars is meant to be. Not, oh, he should have done that, it should have been this. Just try to make things clear for everyone and hopefully bring us together.
I know that it's unfortunately maybe a fool's errand, but honestly, if you feel it in your heart of hearts that that it's something that we feel like that we should do, then we want to do this, because this has been something that has quite literally binded the two of us in friendship for a number of years. Our unifying love of Star Wars, not just episodes 4 through 6, not the movies that George Lucas didn't create, not the movies, not just ignoring the fact or hand waving the prequels as if they didn't exist. These movies exist. These movies
will always exist.
They are part of the Star Wars mythos. They will never be erased. Sure, episodes 1 through 3 may not have been exactly what you guys wanted, but I'll say this one thing. People that criticize George Lucas for changing his own... People who criticize George Lucas for changing his own movies because he feels as though that there can be some things done better with modern technology in classic movies, and then go on to praise stuff like phantom cuts of the prequel trilogy that combine all 3 movies into one 2-hour experience. That thing actually exists, by the way, and I scoff at the thought of it. They're nothing more than just the biggest bargain brand hypocrites that I think exist out there in fandom.
And if they're going to criticize George Lucas for such decisions, you may as well criticize J.R.R. Tolkien or Charlie Chaplin, people that, in fact, went back and changed their own works. You can deny it up and down, but they did it.
The bottom line here is that we have never taken ownership of this. Mm-mm. This has been, up until October of 2012, this has been George's series.
It's been his baby.
This has been his baby. He decided, for the good of the franchise in 2012, that it was time to hand the controls over to someone else. He gave it to probably the company that at the moment is probably the best suited to making sure that something good is going to happen with these movies.
Look at Disney's track record on the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Essentially, all that they have just basically said is, you know what, you guys shoot the films, as long as it doesn't do anything too bad, we'll go ahead, we'll greenlight it, we'll give you the money, and, let's say, we got a movie about a Viking god. Let's get a Shakespearean trained director to shoot this. Mm-hmm. We've got this big group picture that has all these characters. Let's get the guy.
Something that had never been done before.
Let's get a guy that while has had success in television balancing, these diverse groups, has really had no movie career to speak of. I mean, I just feel as though that people that want to complain about the quote-unquote corporatization of Star Wars, I have to ask them, guys, have you seen the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Have you seen the output from Disney over the last 6 years? Frozen, Tangled, Big Hero 6, Inside Out. I mean, okay, maybe if this was early mid 2000s when Disney looked like that they could potentially be on their last legs
when Michael Eisner was still in charge.
Yeah, in the final years of Eisner's reign as Disney. I mean, something changed when they bought Pixar. Something definitely changed when they bought Pixar, and whatever it was, it has turned Disney, I think, almost into as great of a company as it was, quite honestly, when I was a kid in the 90s growing up on the Disney Renaissance films. The bottom line here is that you cry about corporatization, but you also need to do nothing but just look at what they have done, and okay, yes, there's a corporate edge. They want to make money. Okay, newsflash, people, all companies want to make money.
You can't get anywhere in life unless you make money.
It's unfortunate. It's the way of the world. You can't expect these people, and people can criticize. And again, people can criticize Lucas all that he wants about the fact that all he wanted to do was make more money. Well, something.
Look at what he's put all that money into.
He's put that money into the new technologies. Here's a little bit of a theory. Do you think that the Avengers would have come out as well as it had movies like Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith not come before him and at least pioneered the new technologies
and there's
of the time?
Plenty of CGI in the Avengers. So CGI that is almost indistinguishable from the real thing.
I mean, George has always been someone who has believed in was always someone that believed in the power of film, and I think that he recognized that visual effects were something that were a part of it. And of course, you're talking about a guy that was you go back and you listen to any amount of things that influenced him. The Kurosawa samurai films like Hidden Fortress, the 30s Saturday morning serials at the theaters like Flash Gordon, Old West style movies. You really have to think about this as just basically, you really, Star Wars is about as genreless a movie as you can honestly think of. I mean, I don't even really consider Star Wars to essentially be science fiction.
It's space fantasy.
It's space fantasy.
It's a fairy tale.
Like, basically, let's think of it like this. Let's think of it like this. What would have happened to Lord of the Rings in space? You basically got Star Wars right there. It's just the thought, people. I mean, Star Wars is what it was at one time, a unifying force for good when it came to filmmaking for that original trilogy. But ever since 1997, when the special editions came out, it just feels as though that people, and I'm going to include Generation X film nerds, it just feels as though that there's been way too much division. I mean, you can put the blame on the internet, but I also blame the likes of Staklasa and Red Letter Media for exacerbating that divide. And I fear that, and like he said, I fear that there's a divide that could be coming with this. I hope that that's not the case, and I think even in your heart of hearts, you hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that if this movie is good, I think we will be wrong. I think that there is always going to be that segment of fans that are just going to not be satisfied no matter what gets thrown onto the screen. I think that we've seen that. I mean, let's face it, Toy Story 3, a film that's considered perfect about as perfect a movie by any people, that still has 3 critics that basically we have found.
One being an absolutely hypocritical, complete idiot.
But still, complaints about it nonetheless. Nothing is going to please everything, and I think that that's one of the things that we have to remember at this point. We are fans. We love Star Wars. We love the saga. It's not just these 3 movies, or these 3 movies, or that television show, or that television show, or that comic line, or that comic line. It's everything. It's everything. The will of the Force, as Ben Kenobi said in A New Hope, it binds the galaxy together.
Yes.
And that's what I think that this is something I feel as though that should be what we work on as a fandom. We need to come together. We need to come together as fans. This is an exciting time. I'm sorry. I tried not to go on to a tangent the way that I did in the last video that we did, but it just kind of happened that way. What can I say? But I'll just close it out like this. Guys, we're 5 months away from the movie. Let's have fun.
There's not really much left to say, so once again, I'm MC Squared.
And the Otaku Jock.
May the Force be with you all.